E's. We need to go to a different letter.
What would you like to go instead? To
G's.
T?
T.
T is in Tom? It's terrific.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Can be tumultuous at times.
It can be tumultuous.
Yeah.
It can be tumultuous. Give the show a like and a share. California, get up and get in the house. Louisiana, get up and get in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Community Investment Collaborative, get up and get in the house. As our friend Alex Erpe says, grab your cafe con leche, sit back and relax and have some fun with Lee and I. Judah Wickower, you have that 3-shot ready to go. We're going to get the jack of all trades in the mix. Lee Elberson's been appreciating Judah Wickower's take of late.
Loving it.
All right, we can start the program when you're ready, J-Dubs. Guys, good Wednesday afternoon. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love Seville show. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across Albemarle County, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth country in the world, on the I Love Seville network. Today, we are presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. You may not know this, but the best dispensary in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia is Skooma Boutique Dispensary, with a location on the downtown mall and also the UVA corner on Alleywood Avenue. David and his beautiful wife, Kirsty, have more locations on the near horizon with the fastest growing local dispensary brand in the market, Skooma Boutique Dispensary. We're excited for today's program. Friend Lee Elberson on set, in studio, for about an hour to talk all topics. Anything goes when Elberson is on set. And why don't we go to the studio camera, Judah Wickower, our director, so we can welcome brother from another mother, Lee Elberson, the bull and bear
of the show.
Definitely. Lee Elberson. How are you, my friend?
Doing really well. Yeah, life is great. Had a friend come to visit last weekend. You got a chance to meet him, Blake Hawthorne, big fan of the show. We got to show him around Charlottesville, and I couldn't count how many times he just said, wow, this place is so beautiful. So just very lucky to live here.
We're fortunate to live here. He's the CEO of Claiborne. He's also one of the owners of 8 Hats. He's on the board of directors of the Community Investment Collaborative.
Yep, and the founder and chairman of the board of the Better Future Foundation.
Chairman and founder of the Better Future Foundation. So he's got his hands on a number of things locally. I'm going to start with an open-ended question for Lee Elberson. The state of the local economy in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. How do you characterize it?
Yeah, I think from a business perspective, I get concerned when I see so many local businesses up for sale.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty in what is going to happen with the economy. I think maybe that's something that's causing that. I feel like we are coming out of the pandemic, and there is a lot more reliability in business, and so the businesses that have succeeded, I think they could continue to strive. So again, I'm somewhat surprised to see some of them looking to sell now. I think in terms of individual workers, I think that there is now growing fear that we are going to enter into a nationwide recession.
Okay.
But I think that there is positivity that Charlottesville will be less affected by that recession.
I think that's a good take. Are you of the mindset like your fellow bear, Judah Wickower, if we could get the fellow bear on screen with the 3-shot, are you of the mindset that let's get the recession party started, let's get the recession party started right, and let's get the recession party started right now, which I would think is part Judah's take right now, and that the Fed needs to do much more with raising rates to tamper inflation, to do it quicker or sooner rather than later. Are you of that take?
Yes, but with some caution.
With some caveats.
Some caveats, yes. I think it's dangerous to start a catalyst for a recession without really understanding the implications. And I think that our system is significantly complex that we don't know exactly what's going to happen in this recession. On the other side of it, I think what makes me more positive about it is if you don't plan for the recession and just sort of let it happen, we know how detrimental that can be to our economy. So if we kickstart it in a way where there is still funding left in the economy, we still have a number of the stimulus money probably still leaking its way through the economy, then that might help us to sort of smooth the transition. And by causing the housing market maybe to cool off, that could potentially be helpful.
You just bought a house.
Just bought a house.
You and the beautiful better half.
Close in a week.
Close in a week.
Yeah.
So how did navigating the roller coaster ride that is home ownership, first time home ownership?
First time homeowner.
How did that go for the Elbersons? What's up, Scott Williams?
It is, I think buying a house in the last probably several months has taken all of the excitement out of it. It's so rushed.
Yeah.
You really have, everything is 110% all the time. And so it's a little nerve-wracking for a first-time home buyer to not have a lot of time to sort of sit on the decision. We saw the house on a Wednesday. The house got posted Wednesday night. We saw it on Thursday, and we had to put an offer in on Friday.
Get out of town.
Yeah. And I mean, the housing prices, not many of them, I don't think, and Keith Smith could back me up on this, they're not going for what their list price is. You're still having to put in offers pretty high above list price. Probably.
Is that what you guys did?
Mm-hmm.
You, so the negotiator, competitive Lee Elberson that I know, how painful and difficult was it for you to go above list?
Well, I think...
Because you like to win.
I do like to win,
yeah.
as do you, my friend.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I like to win, but I also understand how that sort of game is played. And so, yeah, I think we just sort of set our limit, and when the negotiation came and they said, hey, everybody's offer is about the same, do you want to squeeze a little bit more? And I'm thinking, no. There's a reason why you are coming back to us and we're in the top 3 offers. We're going to leave our offer as is. And we're lucky. We put in a very competitive offer, and I realized that it's not always about the price, right? There's a lot of logistics that go into closing. So, yeah, I was very happy with the house. I was happy with the offer that we finally settled.
What surprised you about the process?
Yeah, that I think, again, that it's not just about how much it is. It's about things like appraisal gap and inspection contingencies, and a well-written, a well-crafted offer takes all of those into account. So we weren't the highest bid on that house, probably by a long shot. Probably, I don't know, it might have been an offer $20,000 or $30,000 above ours. But ours was well-crafted. And I think, now understanding that, especially in this market, probably having a higher appraisal gap and more lenient inspection contingencies is probably to a seller's advantage, because if the first buyer ends up passing, you have that stigma associated with it, and with the housing market cooling off, maybe the buyers aren't as motivated as they were even a few weeks ago. So, yeah, it is an interesting learning experience, but we are very happy with the house and excited to start the process.
Darren giving you props. Happy for Alex and Lee. Darren giving you props. Scotty W. always giving you props. We love you, Scotty Williams. Thank you for watching the program. Camp for Real in the house. John Blair, Que Pasa Amigo. Welcome to the program. Talented Esquire right there. After going through this process and now you're a week away from being a homeowner, are you more or less inclined to say that home ownership is for everyone? Because I struggle with that topic, because we all want affordability, and we all want somebody to have a piece of this potential American dream, but not everyone's destined to have that slice.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably about the same. I very much enjoyed the renter's life.
I know you did.
Like
you've said many times on this show is you weren't going to do it.
I don't know, that's a landlord problem.
Yeah.
Like the little button thing, he's not working. Tell the landlord or property management company, it's got to be fixed. I think, they're treating a house purely as an investment with interest rates going to what they probably are next year. I mean, you're going to pay double that cost of the house in interest over the lifetime of that housing price. So, I think understanding all of that and realizing that I don't think owning a house is for everyone. I think that there's a lot of great benefits to owning a house, and I think there's a lot of great benefits to being a renter in terms of where you're at in flexibility, where you're at in your stage of life.
You and I had a discourse in the comment section on a show last week about if a recession, and I don't know how you feel, I think we're in one now, but if a recession transpires, that it's going to further the educational and wealth gap within localized communities. Mm-hmm. And the thinking will be, if this recession's on the near horizon, or if we're in it already, it's going to be more expensive to live in Charlottesville and not less, more expensive to live near the urban core and not less expensive. And if that is the case, then you'll see a more homogenous community evolve from this recession. You have that mindset?
Yes. I think in the comment section I posted the article that the Fed did right during the last recession. I think that's basically the conclusion was that the wealth gap is going to spread during a recession. I think there's a lot of financial tools that when you fall under higher income classes that you're able to take advantage of that can help buffer you. Obviously nobody is immune to it, right? The markets do crazy things, but you have a lot of different levers to pull. The farther you are on the resource scale, there's no levers left to pull. You have a job and you're sort of subject to whatever wage they're going to pay you, and you don't really have any levers to pull.
Have the businesses that you've worked with and the entrepreneurs that you know, are they hesitant or nervous with everything that's going on?
Definitely, because the business owners that I talk to many of them actually see the recession coming and see their bottom line, basically their expenses going up, and they are worried to increase their price, right? I think that's a big danger. Hey, I used to charge $10 for a haircut, but now my margins are thin. I don't want to go up to 11 or 12 because I might lose customers. And so it's just they're dwindling margins. So I think that's part of the fear of what's going to happen in a recession.
Do you, so what's the advice you're giving? And this is a perfect segue into the Bodos scenario. I know you got to take on the Bodos scenario.
Definitely got to take on the Bodos scenario. I think that I tell every entrepreneur that I mentor and every entrepreneur that I talk with at CIC, as time goes on, you're going to get better at what you do. Barring some really odd cases, you're going to get better, more experience. You should charge more. I was very worried the first time we increased our prices, thinking, oh my God, people are going to scatter if we go up $5 an hour on tutoring. We didn't lose any clients. And I think what a lot of entrepreneurs need to recognize is there is definitely a reverse price sensitivity. If a marketing agency came to me and said, hey, we'll do all your marketing for $50 a month, I'd think, there's no way you could be any good, mm-hmm. right? And so I think that's something I tell them, that you should be charging more and do it incrementally. If your haircut goes up 10% instead of charging $10, you're charging $10.50, or you're charging maybe $11, you're not going to lose any clients like that. But if you wait so long that you have to double your prices and go up to $20, you'll definitely see some clients lose because they get used to that.
So how's it pertain to Bodos and the unionization efforts?
Yeah, so I don't think, I have rarely seen the average price of Bodos bagels, with some exceptions, go up in the last 10 years. Do you
agree with that, Judah? I mean, I guess if they've gone up, it's been nominal.
I haven't been to Bodos often enough to notice that kind of change, but I know every time I've gone in there, it's been very affordable.
Price low. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I think that's great, but things are getting more expensive. I mean, inflation is a real thing that happens. They 100% have to be paying more. And I'm sure as the business goes on, maybe they find a way to source larger ingredients, but I can't imagine that over the last 5 years they haven't seen their expenses increase. And if their revenue is not catching up, then there's not any more money to pay employees.
When does the team member have to ask themselves this? Hey, the average in Bodo's right now in the corner is $17 an hour. That's pretty darn good for quick serve F&B. When does the team member say, hey, this is the peak of what I'm going to make in this industry, and I just got to understand this is the peak of what the industry, the threshold will allow? Because that seems like that's the peak. That's the pinnacle. The peers or competitors to Bodo's are not paying these rates. That leads me to believe it's the peak, or what all the space of business will allow to pay. Kevin Yancey's watching in Waynesboro. Bread is labor intensive. Ingredient, cheap product, but labor intensive. He's talking about the bakers versus the cost of goods of making the bagels themselves. And he's right. But you see what I'm saying, Judah? When does the team member say, this is all this type of work will allow me to get paid, and realize it's the ceiling?
Right. I mean, I think that's part of the overall conversation is how do you account for people affording to live in a city where they have to work? And yes, there are some jobs, like you're not going to get $20 an hour starting off at McDonald's. It's just not going to happen.
It can't happen.
Maybe in a year or two when the dollar is devalued enough that $20 is
meaningless.
Yeah, but the point being that some jobs just are never going to pay a living wage, if that's what we're calling it now. And yeah, I think
isn't that where we're at here?
I think that's where we've always been at. There are always going to be jobs like that. The problem is how do you live in a city or a state where you can't make enough money at a lower tier job? You can't make enough money to survive. I think it goes to working
more than one job there. And what would happen, I'll get out of your way, what would happen with this if they can't come to an agreement and the staff quits, or worst case scenario gets fired? This $17 an hour job to work a cashier or to work expo in a restaurant, expediting the food, that position's going to get filled. It's not going to go unfilled. It will get filled at that clip, and may get filled by someone more youthful, and maybe less experienced. But at that skill set, the experience can be picked up quickly. I mean, you wanted to jump in with something here, Lee?
Yeah, I think this is actually a really interesting point. I definitely understand the discussion about living in a community where the living wage is higher because of the higher cost of living here. Maybe this is part of what you're asking, Jerry, is whose responsibility is that? Is that Bodo's responsibility to change the entire community, or are they just looking at their margins and saying, hey, this is what we can afford, take it or leave it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, okay.
That's what they're doing. Like all small business. Taking
Bodo's out of the equation, I think Judah pointed out, we live in a spectrum. In some businesses, it's just not going to be feasible, right, for them to offer that. Is Bodo's one of those? I think I did some quick calculation. I mean, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar organization, right? Probably $7 or $8 million a year.
I got the business spot. You want to see it?
Yeah.
It's a lot of dough here. I literally have this on my phone at all times. I show it, like once a month here. I'm going to run this by. This is the Bodo's revenue analysis, okay? And this is conservative estimate. Judah, you've seen this. This is conservative.
Okay.
1,000 tickets per day times $8.50 per ticket is $8,500 of average daily gross sales. 8,500 times 3 stores, Lee.
25,000.
25,500.
Yeah.
25,500, we'll call it 346 days.
Yeah, so I think I said about 8 million.
So I got, mine is 8 and change, 8.8, 8,800,000. That's a lot of dough. That's a lot of dough, pun intended. So I would say this, in 346 days, let's cut to the chase, they're going to be open more than 346 days. So 25,500, and you times that by, how many legit days do you think they are?
I think you're splitting hairs.
Call it 360? 360?
I mean, you could lowball it even at 300, but yeah.
360 is 9 million plus.
Yeah.
I know that's a lot of dough, but when it's all said and done, they're selling a bagel with a microwaved egg on it or some cream cheese or some lox in some wrapping paper pushed across a counter in a white bag. That's what's happening, right?
They have a great system. I'll say this, you know, I've been to Bodo's many times. You know, their system works well. Their employees do a great job of communicating. I've rarely had orders messed up, and I've ordered for massive groups, 30 or 40 people. So clearly they've got a system that works really well. Everybody talks about it being an institution. Would people pay 10 or 20% more? So let's say they get an extra 10 or 20, let's say they charge 20% more for their bagels. Instead of $2.50, you got to pay $2.75.
Okay.
Or let's say $3.
$3.
I doubt they would lose many people charging that much more, and they say this money is going to our employees. A lot of businesses do that. You go to Juice Laundry, they break down exactly why they charge so much. Would that work for Bodo's?
You
or
go to
Bodo's not?
I mean, that's a good question. You go to Selvage Brewery, Jude, I'm curious of your take. You go to the Selvage Brewery and the Wolf Factory, the tip comes on the bill at checkout. The server says to you, to pay our team members what we call living wage, there's 20% gratuity already included in this. You can tip on top of that if you'd like, but we've already auto-tipped 20% to guarantee a living wage to our team members. Do you like that approach, J-Dubs? Where like the new bill at Bodo's will say, to pay a living wage to these people, we're gonna have another 20% line item on this invoice. Here it is, and it's going directly to team members. You think people in the community would have issue with that?
I don't think so.
I think it's definitely fair to the employees. I think it, begs the question, why not just stop the whole tipping, BS and just do like what they're doing, roll that 20% into the overall cost and just say, look, our employees don't need tips. We include their receipt does say we've already included the tip into the cost of the food, and our employees are well paid. But
some servers would tell you that deprioritizes the business and creates a culture of coasting as opposed to a culture of initiative, because there's no reason to take the extra effort or go the extra mile because you're not getting any extra incentive to do the extra work.
There's also...
Well, they can still do raises. I mean, that doesn't take out incentive structure, I don't think.
No, that's a good point. Yearly raises.
I think it loosens the noose a little bit. I mean, I guess also the question is, if you're making 19 an hour versus 17 an hour, I guess the argument is that then that is sufficient living wage to live in Charlottesville, or do you need to make a lot more than that? Are we talking about do they need double the rate in order to have a living wage to live in Charlottesville? Because that's the case, then this is academic.
Then that gets you to $34 an hour, which is north of 60 G's a year, probably like 64, 65K a year.
Yeah.
Well, I think that article said that the living wage at this point...
$8.19, I believe.
It's
18.19 or something
change. But you're right. When does it become a rolling, like a goal that you just can't ever meet? Like this year it's 1870, next year it's 1930, and we the employees are in charge of making sure that we match that. I mean, then they've got to be aware of what it is. I mean, who's reporting that number?
I think the employer should be keeping up with that. If you're paying individuals close to that, like below living wage, then you should. I mean, I guess shouldn't say should. One tact is to incrementally increase your prices by. I mean, for Bodo's, we're talking probably pennies on the dollar over the last few years, and then just make sure that you don't run into this issue. And
$18.59 an hour, according to the MIT living wage calculator. Living wage locally for one adult, no child, is $18.59 an hour. $18.59 an hour.
So how much do we trust MIT? That's the question.
Well, and
well, I don't know. Their research is pretty top notch.
I mean, MIT is legit. We know they're legit. You know, Lee, the reason I'm talking about this, it's such a dynamic element. It's the most darling, or it was before this story, it was the most darling and beloved local brand of any I can think of.
I mean, it still is. When Blake came to visit, it was like, we got to take you to Bodo's. What's Bodo's? It's great. It's an institution.
It's an institution.
Yeah.
It's an institution. On top of that, institution that's locally owned. On top of that, a brand that is, in a lot of ways, a market leader in food and beverage locally. At this press conference last Wednesday, there was a state delegate and Sally Hudson and two counselors and Michael Payne and Cena McGill essentially leading a union protest outside of the business. So if you're the business owner and you're looking out your storefront door, you see 2 of 5 city councilors and a state delegate leading a protest of 40 or 50 people in front of your business with protest signs and billboards in people's hands and the media all over it. I mean, look at how many layers are to this onion. Elected officials are leading a unionization effort against private and small business owners. The most beloved brand in the community. Will this spill over to other restaurant groups locally? Got to be worried about that locally.
Yeah.
It certainly will, because what did I read? I read the union is larger than just like some random people trying to get this started.
Oh, it's a legit, very legit union. It talks about it in the article.
It'll spill over. We are talking. I mean, Bodo's. It sounds like it's one of the biggest restaurant. We're talking about 100 employees and over 10 million. I mean, they're getting a little outside the scope of what I would consider a small business. When you're at 100 employees, that's. In fact, the SBA, you have to have less than 100 employees.
You think Bodo's has 100 employees?
Probably.
You think, because you're saying 33 per location.
Yeah, 3 shifts of 15 per location, probably.
Okay.
When you go there. So, I mean,
I'll give you
to put it
100.
in perspective, you know, I think other businesses should think about it when you grow to that size, that these are the sort of things you need to address. But I definitely think having the politicians outside, that's an element I can't speak to. I'm not in politics. You're about.
I just don't. I can't even comprehend an elected official standing on the stoop of a privately owned business, leading an effort to unionize the staff of that private business. That is, and I said this on Real Talk this morning. Blake Hawthorne says he loves Bodo's. A lot of comments coming in right here that I'll get to here. I said this morning on Real Talk. What Payne and McGill and Hudson did was overstepping their bounds as elected officials. I do not see private business should not be led by elected officials, and elected officials should not be influencing or leading private business staff in unionization efforts. And that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I
honestly don't have a good pulse for how the community feels like, but if the community is behind this, I mean, isn't their job to represent their constituents? And if most of the constituents support this, maybe they shouldn't be holding picket signs in front of it, but they should be bringing it up in council meetings.
Danny O'Dea alluded to something like that this morning. It's a dynamic topic, and I know the folks that are in F&B that are owners are very mindful of what's happening here. And Lee, compounding everything, this is happening at the same time that their cost of goods are going up, that fuel is impacting every aspect of their business. Is this happening at the exact same time that summer's about to happen and all the students are about to head home? You know, this is happening at the same time that inflation's running rampant. Couldn't happen at a worse time.
I mean, that's an unfortunate coincidence for him. Yeah. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to poll Charlottesville and see how they feel about Bodo's unionizing. I don't know a lot. I've never been part of a union, but the topic came up when my friend was visiting this weekend because he's part of a union, and he says it's the union's job to protect the workers. And if the workers feel like they need to unionize because they need to be protected in terms of living wage and vacation days and working conditions, then that could mean that management hasn't appropriately addressed those. Could be. I'm not saying, I don't know anything about how Bodo's is run behind the scenes, but that's the take that my friend gave.
Well, that's a good take. Anything you want to add to this, Judah? Before we talk education and leveling? I see the brains turning over there.
No, I think I just want to reiterate that I feel like this is a smaller symptom of a much larger problem that we're seeing everywhere. And like you said, I don't really think there's an easy answer to this or a lot of it, and we kind of just need to. We kind of just like I said before, we need community. When we're in community, we help each other out. When we start getting fractured and just a bunch of people living in the same city, it becomes a matter of like, oh well, who's that? Who does that matter? Why does that person matter to me?
And you feel that's missing from here?
I feel that's been slipping away from a lot of places, not specifically Charlottesville. I feel like community is slipping away from us, and at a time when we especially need to be caring and
empathetic, galvanized.
Yeah, to the people that live near and around us. And I'm not talking about like the guy across,
I understand what you mean.
The people in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
the people that live down the street or next door, like being aware that they're tightening their belts and trying to make less last longer is part of community, and I think we need more of that.
How are you tightening your belt? Go ahead.
I was just going to say one counterpoint to that. I will say that I feel like Charlottesville has a very strong community if you judge it by the density of nonprofits here. Now, I think what Judah is pointing out is I don't think this is an uncommon business problem. As businesses scale, you're driven to create more profits. Especially when you get to the scale that Bodo's is, and that is counter to paying your employees substantially more. So I think by raising this issue to the community and letting them know we have a big business in Charlottesville that is trying to unionize, I think that is a good thing, with the politics of the councilman aside. So I don't think that, I would like to just affirm, I think Charlottesville has a very strong community in terms of giving back. This is a business issue that I don't think is terribly unique.
No, I agree 100% with you. And I already think that they're a market leader in setting the pay standard. But as the business booms and grows and drives more revenue, it's not the business's obligation to share that with everyone. Especially when the team members are already at the pinnacle of pay for the field.
Well, they're not at the pinnacle, right? They're making lower than a living wage.
I'd say Bodo's team members are at the pinnacle of that category of business in pay. Is there any how would you characterize that? Quick serve? Is there any QSR, quick serve restaurant that is paying team members as well as Bodo's? I can't think of one, can you?
And I don't know if they
It's
belong
the
in the
pinnacle of
quick
the
serve.
profession.
Isn't Brazos paying like $22 an hour?
Brazos is paying $22 an hour.
I
Wow.
think so.
In the Bricks Pizza location, where they're about to have $25,000 a month in rent, I'd be curious to see that number.
I thought you posted that on your show at one point. They were hiring people. They were having trouble hiring people. Now maybe that has gone down, but if they want to continue to pinch pennies, that's certainly their prerogative. I think one of two things will happen. They will get negative publicity because people will not see Bodo's as an institution in the community. They're just trying to make
To
as
run a
much
business.
money as possible, which is fine, but you can have a profitable business and also have good work and company culture. And if the employees aren't feeling satisfied, then people can make decisions based on whatever criteria they want. And maybe we're overvaluing what it's like to have a community business. Maybe people just want cheap bagels, right? Maybe people don't care about how the workers are treated. And they're like, well, just find somebody less experienced. We don't care if you unionize. I don't think Charlottesville's like that. I think Charlottesville likes to support businesses that treat their workers really well. I go to Firefly a lot because Melissa pays her employees well. She mentions that in there. Hey, we add an extra 10% so that they can have a living wage. And I like supporting businesses like that. That's just me personally.
Are you playing any of the games at Firefly?
You mean the board games?
Or they have not arcade games.
Oh yeah, I've played. Well, they don't have a foosball table anymore. I talked about that earlier. Skee-ball.
Skee-ball. I love
Skee-ball,
skee-ball.
pinball. I love all those games. You and I have to play some foosball though.
I would love to play foosball.
Yeah.
I would love to play foosball. I have a foosball table in my basement. Literally, I do.
You do?
I do.
Oh.
I have a Harvard foosball. 3 in the back, the block men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would love to play foosball with you. I don't know. I'm torn on this topic because of the many layers to the proverbial onion.
Do you shop at locations based on how they treat their employees?
Sure.
Do you think most people in Charlottesville feel that way?
I think a lot of people do.
Okay.
But I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be a commoditized product, and it's a bagel. And what makes Bodo's so popular? You know why Bodo's is popular? They're popular because, and maybe even in this order, price point. You get in line, and you know the line is going to move quickly and efficiently. That's why Bodo's fast service, price point, fast service,
fast and accurate service.
fast and accurate
they don't
service,
mess up much.
and the food is good.
Yeah.
That's why they're in business.
I don't think it's in that order. I think price is probably, yes, partly, but I think they.
What do you think is number one? Food is good or the line moves fast?
Line moves fast.
Okay, so that's number one. So number two, do you say it's food is good or price point?
I mean, you could combine those, right? It's value, right? Like if the bagels were half as good, but they charge half as much.
So
I
you
think
just
it's-
explained in your top 3 that paying employees was not one of the 3 reasons you went to Bodo's.
I go there because I think that they're.
That's your
employees
number one
are
reason.
Usually, no, it's not, but it's in the top 3.
That's in your top 3 legitimately?
Yeah, well,
Is that in your top 3,
it's
Judah?
it's in a calculation. Like if I thought, the converse is if I thought that they were mistreating their employees, I wouldn't shop there. I haven't gotten that. The employees are usually friendly and talkative, and they seem to have retained employees for a while, which means that the conditions can't be that bad. So that's why I've continued to shop there. If I saw a tremendous amount of turnover there, I'd think, wow, something is being poorly managed here.
What's your top 3 reasons you go there?
I don't know that I've got a top 3, but I tend to agree that that when I shop somewhere, the first thought in my mind is not how much are these people getting paid, but if I knew they were being treated poorly,
You wouldn't shop there.
I would probably stay away.
Okay. I would bet that if you polled 100 people outside of the Bodo's on Preston and said, why do you go here? I would bet you their 3 most common answers will be food tastes good, it's priced cheaply, and the line moves fast.
I mean, I don't know anybody that shops at particular places just because they know that place pays their employees better than everyone else. There may be some, but that just, I mean, I don't even know how you would get that information about all the places you normally shop.
And I would also bet you this, that Three Notch, literally on its floor in Ix Park at the Craft Kitchen, had a robot serving food. The robot was carrying food to people at tables at Three Notch. And if the world wants to see a true wealth and educational gap happen in this community, you start freaking automating the cashier jobs and the expo jobs and the food runner jobs to the table. You automate those with robots and automation screens like you have at McDonald's, kiosks, and then those jobs go freaking away.
Yeah.
And then when those jobs go away, you legitimately just have a wealthy, homogenous community.
Yeah.
Now we're fighting with this dynamic. The dynamic
I
we're
see what
fighting.
you're saying.
The dynamic we're fighting with now is the wealthy people have to commute. The folks that are working frontline jobs have to commute to Charlottesville to service the wealthy. That's what the dynamic we have now. There's no housing affordability, so people are commuting to Charlottesville and Albemarle County to service the people that can live here. If we erode through unionization efforts these $17 an hour Bodos jobs and they get cannibalized by automation and robots,
It's
I
going to
see.
get worse.
those jobs won't
Yeah.
even be here.
Okay,
Right.
you mentioned that before. I don't think I understood the implications. You're saying that if workers keep pressing for higher wages, it's only a matter of time until an owner says, you know, I can pay a robot. Like I can
buy a robot.
for half of the cost.
And not have any petty BS or politics or employee squabbles or people calling out sick. A robot doesn't catch COVID. A robot does not catch COVID. Neither
And then
does a kiosk screen.
somebody maybe needs to service those, so maybe maybe some of those jobs just get displaced, and not completely just eliminated.
I wouldn't think kiosk servicing or robot servicing is blue collar entry. I would think you're going to need some kind of level of engineering.
You need some trade school, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, at the very least. So you need some education, which maybe is a good segue into
to the Crozet story. This is why I think the topic is so dynamic.
Yeah.
I think they're going to erode. So I sent Lee a topic, guys. It's in the Crozet Gazette now. Kelly Jackson sent this to me. Kelly Jackson, if you're watching the program, let us know. The reason we're talking about this now, Kelly Jackson, is because of you. And it's in the Crozet Gazette. It came out in the Crozet Gazette about a week ago. And the headline is County Schools, Albemarle County Schools, move to unlevel most classes. And unleveling is basically doing away with advanced or honors classes and saying everyone is in the same academic pool and there's not students that have been grouped based on academic performance. It's called unleveling in Albemarle County. And Lee...
and it's not just in Albemarle County. There's other places in the country that have done it and are trying to do it.
Everybody gets a trophy mentality of education. You don't know the Pythagorean theorem, it doesn't matter. You're going to stay in the class with the smart guys and gals that do know the Pythagorean theorem, that a squared and b squared equals c squared.
Dude, I was going to test you.
Okay.
Miller, good job. How many adults do you think could remember that, bro?
I would hope a lot.
Yeah.
I would hope a lot. So
yeah.
what's the point of performing? What's the point of doing well?
Yeah, now, I'll just give a disclaimer. I have never worked in the public school system. My experience comes from working with thousands of parents and students. I've worked with students in families in the public school system, in the independent school system, charter school, homeschooled. So I'm trying to take this from a variety of different lenses. But I think the basis of the issue it's highlighted somewhat in that article is that the leveling allows advanced students to keep advancing. All students learn at different paces, and so students who are fast learners or maybe have more of an aptitude for mathematics can advance faster in that class, and students who are slow readers can pace down to what is their pace, and that's essentially why they started leveling. The concerns, I guess, are that it's an inequitable system. We certainly will talk about that in a second. Does it address the psychological effects of a student feeling like they're in the dumb class, I think is what was posted in that article. I think another lens is, are we properly training teachers to be in a single leveled system? Because I can tell you with 100% certainty that, I've had 12 students in some of our SAT classes. The students who are struggling are going to get left behind, and the students who are your high flyers are going to feel bored. And it's really tough, even with the best of training, to have enough resources in class to keep all of them happy. Your best hope is to just try to move the middle part of that bell curve forward, and the fast learners are going to get held back a little bit, and the slow learners are going to be lost. I don't know of an ideal system that does that.
Can you imagine a more challenging climate for a prospective teacher than right now? For someone considering getting into education than right now?
Not only that, the current teachers, you've taught this class this way for a number of years now, you have to teach it this new way. And it sounds like from the article that the county is dedicated to training the teachers. Unless it's a major budget increase, it's really difficult to change these sort of systems. And if the end goal is having a truly equitable system, I don't think that's possible. Some students are just always going to learn faster than others. And I know I've said this before, families with resources are just going to have more time and energy and resources to be able to help those students excel. So I think it'll be very difficult to create a truly equitable system.
This is educational equity.
Yeah.
Academic equity.
Yeah.
Academic parity, if you may. This is the parity version of academics. The parity version of grading. And those two words are contradictions. Parity and grading are contradictions.
Yeah.
They're opposites.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this when we talked about equity grading when we had Jeff Prelman on your show last year, right? Equity grading is, meant to make sure that we take some of the biases out of grading. I think that seems perfectly reasonable, but taking, here's how I think you could take out leveling in an ideal world. You have a teacher who has been trained to have a variety of resources and can give enough individual attention to students so that high flyers will be able to keep excelling. You want to encourage that learning. And students who are really struggling are going to need some sort of extra help. The teacher is not going to be able to do all of that, and so there's going to need to be some supplemental system that helps bring those students up to grade standards. I don't know how you do that without increasing our education budget by 40 or 50%.
Kevin Higgins, watching the program for us. Robots to service people are sad, but I understand. I just want the staff to say, how are you today? What's your name? Tell me about your day. As opposed to a robot that delivers a plate without talking. Robots will never make us feel connected. No way I ever tell friends to go to a restaurant based on an experience from a machine.
I'm sure that's probably got your little wheels grinding up there, Jerry, right?
Well, Kevin Higgins is the king of Greenwood. I love his comments.
Yeah,
but
I agree with him.
A drive-through restaurant is that. If you've ordered through a drive-through, you've been to a restaurant where you've ordered through a machine.
You've ordered through a person who can understand the levels of syntax, and when you speak with them, I think that there's a lot of intangibles about eye contact with another human being that I think he's right. I don't think can be replaced by a robot.
And we saw that certainly during the pandemic with mask and virtual learning. We saw that during the pandemic. Is it your cousin, Jared? Brother-in-law.
Jared, yeah, it's my brother-in-law. Yep.
Brother-in-law. He's
Yeah.
watching the program, and he says the robots and the machines replacing is exactly what will happen. He says machines will replace humans where it makes sense, but humans will always be involved depending on this type of business.
It's. I think every industry should consider this. We've considered this at Claiborne. We consider this at 8 Hats. At what point is there a machine that has sufficient understanding of the position and can do a good enough job that it makes sense to get rid of a person? Luckily,
it's pretty
Claiborne,
close.
Not with tutoring.
Well,
I think
not
we're
with
a
Claiborne.
long way with education, but certainly with
Certainly podcast hosting, but a lot of other efforts. I think we're at that at that threshold. I mean, food running. You have the robot go there.
Now that is definitely an industry. I mean, yeah, like Grubhub, you don't ever interact with the driver. You click a button and the food shows up at your door. Yeah, I think the interactions where there's like a long time genuine contact, I think restaurants are a good example. Like, you get to know your server. If they're good, they're nice to you, you feel well cared for. But I think you're right, a drive-through is not that. And Bodo's is probably an extension of that. You talk to the person taking your order, they got 20 people behind you. What is your order? Egg on everything. Okay, move down the line.
A lot of people's most favorite time with Bodo's was when they had the drive-through. And they didn't have to socialize with staff. And they got their food without leaving their car.
What, based on what study?
A lot of people said that they missed the drive-through. A lot of people missed the Bodo's drive-through.
Yeah, I think that the convenience of it, I don't think it's because they didn't have to deal with staff. I think it was a convenience thing.
Well, convenience is not having to do small talk for some people.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
you're right. I'm an extrovert.
You love talking to people. Both of us
I shouldn't assume that everybody's like that. That's a good point.
Close the show with some businesses that you want to highlight that we should support. Because that's a passion of yours.
Well, number one, I'm going to say,
You're
right?
going to say Botanical?
Right a block from here.
He loves Botanical.
Ryan Becklin, yes. She is doing it. I would say it's guilt-free food. Every time I go there and I eat, no matter how much I eat, I don't feel guilty for it. So definitely want to highlight that. Again, it's just based on my own preferences at CIC. Angelique's Kitchen in Dairy Market. She's expanding, has a food truck. CIC business, really great. Always want to highlight Scott Williams. I think he does great things for this community. I think he's having a little event here on Friday, before Fridays After 5. His kids are doing like a dance competition or something right in front of Botanical. So, those are three of the businesses that I frequent and support quite regularly. There's a couple of businesses just getting started, but I can't say anything just yet because they would probably be upset with me until they actually launch. Yeah, CIC businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're doing big things, Lee Epperson. You're always doing big things. I love following is it Jeep Vader on Instagram?
Jeep Vader on Instagram. Yeah, Jeep Vader's, we're preparing for it. We're going to be going 8,547 miles from September to November in that Jeep.
You embody the manifest destiny way of life. I respect that, my friend. The man bought a home, closes next week. The man has a sense for adventure. The man has a sense for conscious capitalism, for supporting small business. The man has a sense for triathlons, foosball.
Not so much squash anymore.
He's been playing less squash.
We are going to play that foosball game. You know that, right?
Disappointed he's playing less squash.
Our standard bet, loser does 10 push-ups. Isn't that our standard bet?
We can do that. I will gladly play. We'll probably have to do it at Miller's.
Okay, yeah.
We can do it because you sold your tape.
Yeah, this morning.
Lee Epperson, guys, Claiborne Education. He crushes it on the program. Judah Wickower is our director. Did he ask you about a book?
We know the next book in the lineup. I know you don't like the B word on this show, but yes, the Bobaverse series. I got to give him book 2 of that.
I got a book for you too.
He's got to vote for me.
I don't mind.
You called it the B word one time, right? Like, don't say the B word.
book. Oh God, I love Lee. What's Barking Local in 90 minutes? I believe Angie Gunner, Executive Director of the SPCA, is going to be here, right?
No, I think Britt is.
Oh, okay.
coming.
Britt and Emily
It
Swecker.
was going to be Emily.
Okay.
Emily can't make it, so Britt's coming.
Okay, Britt's going to be in the house. Lee, you killed it. Thank you.
Always love being on the show.
I
Thanks so
love
much
when you
for
come on
having
the
me.
show. We love when he comes on the show. Judah, thank you. I'm Jerry for Lee and Judah. This is the I Love Seville show. We'll see you on What's Barking Local in 90 minutes. Take care. Dude, the Bose thing, man.
That is a hot